Welcome to the 3Haunted podcast, where we bring you all things horror, supernatural, folklore, mythology, and all things that go bump in the night.
Hey guys, this is your co-host Ashley Lunar Goddess, Gorilla Girl filmmaker and horror-loving cinephile. I'm just your average pun-making swearwolf that loves to explore the spookier things in life.
Hey everybody, I'm John Thomas, paranormal investigator, super smartass, and film lover extraordinaire.
It's okay. What's up, ghouls, gals, and all of our spiritual pals? Welcome to another live stream special with the 3Haunted podcast. In today's episode, we'll be discussing mediumship and shamanism with our special guest, Fowler the Psychic Shaman. Welcome, Aaron.
Thank you for having me.
Very excited to have you on. It always sounds creepy when I say something like this, but I'm gonna say it anyways because I'm me. But I've been, following your videos on TikTok. Anytime you're live, I see it pop up, and I'm just like, oh look, let's go see what they're talking about today. So it's very exciting. For those that don't know, actually some may know if they listen to some of our other live streams, I've been going down the TikTok rabbit hole of psychic, mediumship, and gifts on TikTok. And I've learned so much, by the way. Like, I know it sounds silly, but I'm not making fun of it at all. Just from having people like Aaron and other specialists out there, even some of the common sense they tell you, like about how to ground yourself, how to protect yourself and your gifts, like it sounds like when they say it, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. You make it sound so just natural. Why didn't I think of that? And it's like, that's what you guys are there for, because that stuff just doesn't come to me that way.
I was going to say, Ashley doesn't do anything the easy way, so it's the hard way.
I'm a difficult person.
And I mean that in the nicest, most like sincere way possible. Like, I don't mean anything bad by it at all, but like, I just know how she is. She always does things the difficult way. She's like me, I do it too, so.
But Aaron creates a pretty awesome space. Like, from all of the lives that I've jumped onto for him or with like watching him, he's welcoming. I've never seen him create a negative space. And there are those out there that do. And his is just like, I don't scroll. I remember the first time I saw his, I was like scrolling, came across his, and I was like, wow, he's very nice. Wow, he really knows what he's talking about. And like an hour later, I'm like, I should probably go back to what I was doing. So, Aaron, how long have you been doing lives on TikTok?
It's been lives on TikTok just recently, probably about 2 years, I think. And then Facebook, I've been going live for, since they started going live. Like, I was actually able to go live before a lot of people were, when it was kind of still in the beta phase. So I've been going live, I think, since 2017, 2016 on Facebook. And then from there, like before that, I've been giving readings, and I've had an online business or ran my business for 23 years. So back when the rotary phones still were like a thing.
Oh, yeah. I remember those.
or just the home landline, yep. Maybe not rotary phones. That's a little bit older than me.
So when did you know that you had intuitive gifts? Because it sounds like you've been doing this a while.
I grew up in kind of I don't know how to, like my parents and my grandparents, they just created like this, and they all did, normal things. They all had normal jobs, but for their grandchildren, they like created like this just place of like imagination, of creativity, and gave us culture, showed us different things. And through that, I feel like, and my grandmother was an astrologer. She was kind of a closet astrologer. Like, she didn't tell people, because I grew up in Utah. So in Utah, they're very, again, a lot, they're not so nice or agreeable with astrology and tarot and psychic abilities. And so she kind of kept it quiet, but she did it for people close to her. But I learned a lot from her. I learned a lot from my mom. My mom told me that I used to predict things. Like, I predicted my sister coming, and I predicted my great grandmother dying the same day. So I knew that I hadn't had these things like from probably a really early age, but I just thought that was natural. Like I just thought that's how everybody is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I did notice that I was kind of rebellious. I had kind of this rebelliousness to me. But anyway, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, yeah, like we perceive the world as it pertains to us typically. So the
Right.
fact that it was normalized for you and it was accepted, like I think that's amazing. That's great. That's really, I love hearing stories like that where it wasn't a taboo thing and your family really encouraged and embraced that.
Yeah, like I was working. Okay, and I told myself this when I think it was like late teens, but I said I want to be a psychic. That's what I want to do. From then on, it took years to kind of get there. I mean, it took me till I think I was like 26 or 27. It was 1999, November 1999, and I lost my job, or I was working construction, and I just lost my job. And so my mom she's a tarot reader too. So she's like, okay, so there's a thing online. There's a site online. You can go on there. You can put your name in there, put your profile, and you can take calls and you can make some money if you need to. And I was like, no. At first, I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I know that thought I wanted to do that, but no. And so she signed me up like secretly, got everything in place, and said, okay, I've got you turned on, so you're ready to take calls. And so from then on, and people started calling me, and I was like, whoa, okay. And so I just started pulling the cards, and I just barely started pulling cards. I started with like an oracle deck. It's a deck that's worth like $500 now. I wish I would have saved it. Called Rock Art Tarot, and it was just like a lot of like hieroglyphs, petroglyphs, different symbols, and I could just read them. I could just see and tell. I could see the story as I put out the spread. Before I even knew how to do it, I just did it. I'm like, well, that's pretty easy. And people started calling me back, going, "Wow, you just hit that right on the mark." Months later or years later, that people calling me back saying, "Wow, I can't believe you really did call them." And so I got confident, and as my confidence grew in it and in the work, there it was just putting in the work. And then once once the confidence is there, readings or your clairvoyance or your all clairs get a lot stronger as you use them.
You know what I love? That your mom was like, no, baby, we're taking off the training wheels and
Yeah,
threw you into the hotline of
yeah, she threw
tarot.
me into the pits of yeah, the fire. And I think that's what kind of got me going. Like then I started making money. I was able to pay my bills. I was able to take care of my kids. And so I just kept doing it. And that's kind of just stuck since then. I've had a lot of experiences along the way. I'm a musician and, I used to play a lot of gigs with the band, but yeah, it always kind of leads back to like right here. I'm always music and just the creative side of me has always been the biggest part of me. So I just fully accepted it and lived it.
That's so great. I do feel like, and I'm not saying this is the general rule of thumb, but I do feel like a lot of intuitive people tend to also be creatives in some way because I feel like that
Yep.
expression goes hand in hand, needing
Hmm.
to express that energy that's just
Yep.
rippling out.
It fuels each other. The creativity and the intuition, they can't live without one another.
I like that.
That's the place where, that's where you leave your mind most open. So in that place of imagination, so if you leave your mind open, then you can just allow the visions to come in and you can actually create things when you're manifesting, you're actually creating them, but you can actually take it in. It flows both ways, right? So it flows to you and it flows out in a way, I guess, if that makes, trying to make sense of it. But
Yeah.
there's a way where you can create, and then there's this whole other consciousness, this greater thing than all of us that talks to us, that sends us messages that in whatever way they can. So yeah, it's a weird life, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
I don't, you know, I think to most people, because we've kind of moved towards a space where we've all kind of shut down a little bit, right? Into that kind of more
Yeah.
3D way of living.
Right. Right.
I don't know if it's weird. I think it's just we took away a part of ourselves, right? We kind of like tucked it away into a closet and said, not right
Yeah.
now, and forgot about it.
Yeah.
But more people, I feel like, are finding their way back to it. They're like cleaning out their closet, right? Like I cleaned out my closet and found my old rocks. Like they're cleaning out their closet and they're like, oh, wait, you are there. Welcome home, baby.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think it's hard to deny anymore. There's too much going on. There's too much, stress brings it out in a lot of ways. In our most stressful situations, that's when our intuition kicks in kind of naturally. So the last 3 years especially has been doing that. Like, though there's been a lot of fear out there and a lot of negativity, I think the positivity has grown even stronger because of it.
It's interesting you say that stress brings out our intuition more, because recently we had a person comment asking, they noticed a lot of, not all, but a lot of intuitives have had like kind of a past filled with trauma. And I was like, well, I wonder if trauma kind of makes it blocked a little, because you have to work through that before you can access that. But it's interesting you're saying that stress actually makes it more accessible. And I wonder if somehow there's a correlation there.
Well, think about like a sweat lodge, right? There, you're being pushed to your body's being pushed to such a level of extreme level that you open up, you receive visions. You get into that place where they're not hallucinations, they are visions. You are connecting with yourself, you're going within, and you're learning that within is a lot bigger than everything we see. That's everything. That's where you gain everything. That's where you can travel across space and time in a split second, wherever you want to go. Those things within and what you see within are where your true soul lies. That's what your true, where your true self is. And sometimes as humans and as souls, we kind of get disconnected. I think that's what's been happening, but I think that the awakening has been going on for probably since the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of morphed and grown and evolved into this point we're at right now, which I feel like is a point of like critical mass, or things are about to really kind of explode as far as awakening goes. Again,
Kind of like
stop.
kind of like Mama, right? Whether you like it or not, here we go.
Yeah, in a smaller level, yes, like for me and for my life. But I've had other moments in my life where I was just awakened to a lot of things, like shown a lot of things, very fast rate of speed, and kind of hard, like very overwhelming, but a good feeling, like that spiritual high. If you've ever meditated or felt that close to, that source or that flow and really felt connected, you feel that. It's like being in a zone, right? Like nothing, you can do nothing wrong. Everything you see with 100% clarity, almost in kind of a 360 view. I know this sounds like mumba chumba, but really
No.
it's the best way I can explain it, because I can't really explain it. It's not something that I want to, I would rather you get in touch with it on your own, in your own way. And there's levels of that. Like, we have to shed a lot of like the religious things that we've learned, or the things of control that we've learned. We've got to shed a lot of these things that we hide behind, these idols that we look up to or we worship. Those things kind of actually hold us back. We can learn, and that's a one aspect, but I think we're coming to a time where things are just speeding up very fast. Evolution is happening very fast. Our consciousness is growing, and we're learning a lot more, a lot because of the internet and being able to connect to each other. And I think the more that we learn to connect to each other when we need to, the better. Like, it's important that we understand that we are all connected. Everything is connected, but we have our individuality. That's the cool part about this life. That's the cool part about our lives, even as a soul. Getting people to understand that balance, I think, is key. And a lot of people are getting kind of shocked awake, which can be very jarring, but, just accept it. Let it flow through you. Don't be afraid of it. There's a lot of things that's probably why we haven't seen a lot of extraterrestrial life, because people are still afraid. They're going to, they see something different than them, that doesn't look human. Of course, they're going to freak out about it. So I don't know. I'm kind of rambling now. Sorry about that.
No. I love it. You're saying a lot of really meaty things that like they're very important. I absolutely agree. I think fear is the definite driver for keeping the blinders on when it comes to our gifts, and also things external to us we're just not necessarily ready to see, but some of us are.
Yeah.
I have no doubt people are getting to a point where more and more are open to this. Otherwise, TikTok lives with psychics and shamans and stuff like that wouldn't be so popular.
That's right. That's right. We're taking over.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't admit it, and they're like, "No, I didn't talk to it. That's so silly." And then it's like you were literally in a room with 2,000 other people watching this.
Right.
There is an undeniable curiosity that people are connecting to about that, and I don't think it's, "Ooh, I'm watching it to laugh at it." I think people are relating to
Yeah.
it and leaning into it, and it's going to be more normalized. It's going to be
Yeah.
another way of life. Now, for you, with your gifts, it seems like you connected. Like you didn't need to read a book and go to 50 Google sites to understand what tarot cards meant to you. It seems like you were in connection, you were connected to your intuition, so it came a little bit more naturally to you. What other gifts have you noticed surface as you embrace this intuition?
Well, I think actually reading books is partly what helped open my
Oh,
I already
nice.
had it. I was connected, but as far as like tarot, like I looked at tarot, I'm like, I don't want to study all these. Like I'm just gonna. I see the symbolism and I'm going for it. But like I read a few books on psychic abilities and just like I've learned a lot through Wayne Dyer. You ever heard of Dr. Wayne Dyer? Taoism. I try to dabble in all of it. I want to learn about all of it because there are so many correlations, but yet there's so many differences in like these just the style or the way that they see it, the way they perceive it. And that's really like I teach a class on this where we basically go over all of different types of theology or religion or spirituality. We try to learn as much, or I try to teach as much about that so you can have like a well-rounded kind of outlook on it. Because the more you can be like I said, be acceptant of like everything else. Because people will get stuck in like one religion, and that is like what they follow devoutly, and that's only one small aspect of what truly is, and what truly is to connect. You can connect with that aspect, but you're always going to connect. Like somebody Christian's always going to connect with angels. They're always going to connect with Jesus, right? Somebody Hindu's always going to connect with the gods there, Saraswati or Shiva, excuse me. So I think it's important that we learn a lot about all of the other ways that people view things, and we can find a lot of different correlations even throughout history of the way people did things the same. They had a different kind of different flavor, should I say, to the way they were, teaching it, but pretty much the same. Like I can look at the Tibet, we can read the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and it explains like how to prepare you to die and what you see when you die, and the Egyptians did the same thing around the same time. So there's a lot of this like hidden. I think it's the knowledge that people aren't seeking or aren't, don't know to seek is the stuff that you really want to learn. The stuff that's scary to people. And I'm, like I've spent a lot of time learning about Hermeticism, and that seems to make the most sense to me. Like there, you are creator. It's basically there's people that use it for the wrong reasons, and there's people that use it for the right. Life is a chessboard. You can either be one of those pieces out on the board, or you can be somebody playing the game. And that's really what I've learned from hermetics and occult. Just hidden knowledge, So it's made my gifts a lot stronger. I'm not a devout follower. I mean, I do kind of consider myself an initiate, but just in the way that I'm open. Here I am, universe. I'm open to learn more. I want to know as much as I can, as much as I possibly can, as far as the cosmos or these abilities that we have, because I think I've always known that we've had these, like all of us do. And I watched everybody kind of walking in line, like to church or, whatever it was, kind of all in uniform, like, like I'm just not that person. I don't mind being on a team and being a team player, but people just blindly follow things because they think somebody else has the answers for them. And the answers are really right there within you.
Yep. I like what you said about not pigeonholing yourself into just one thing and reading other things, because I think that's
Yeah.
where we get hung up, that thinking, the idea that if we read other things and we explore other ideas and theories and philosophies, that we're somehow betraying our own. And for me, it's like you can be yourself and more. You can say, here's my truth, or here's what like you said, I may have a foundation in angels, but I also hear what this is saying. Because the more we expose ourselves to all of these other ideologies, whether they're attached to religions or not, the more we might find an expansion to our truth. And the only way we do that is by exploring. So I like that. Do you find that meditation helps access your intuitive gifts more?
Yeah, and some people do it daily, and it's good. Like I feel like meditation, in a sense of getting yourself in somewhat of a trance state. So you could be doodling and just pondering and thinking. Right, pay attention to your thoughts when you're doing that, or just pondering things, sitting quietly by yourself, relaxed. Anything that kind of puts you in somewhat of a different state where you're kind of open, um, I think is good. I think meditation can be used to heal. I think everybody should go into, learn how to deeply meditate to kind of break through, to kind of have a breakthrough, because once you can, that's a good way to kind of open you up to a lot of the energy that you don't realize is right there. And it's a way to kind of, get rid of stress. But I would say just to know and understand the connection to the flow of everything, the life force, whatever you want to call it. That's a great way to do it. But you don't have to do it. You don't have to sit in lotus position with your, with your fingers touching. That's a good way. That's a good disciplined way to do it. And if you do it that way, that's awesome. But you can do it just basically spacing off.
Yeah, Alec said that he had a few ways of meditation, and the main way was listening to music. And I feel like I'm the same way, listening to music and vibing out, kind of just feeling it and going with the flow there. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm more of a moving meditation person. So, for example, through like a yogic practice or through dance or through the more I can connect with my entire body
Yep.
while still not focusing my mind on, the many different things, I feel like I connect so much with my entire body that I go to a different space within myself. And then I feel like I'm outside of myself. It's like you said, that kind of meditative high that you feel, for lack of a better word, when you are connected completely internally so much that it goes externally. That sounded really weird, I think.
It's like having 1 foot in this realm and 1 foot in whatever other realm you're in. Like being in two
Yes.
different places. It's the omnipresence. You're experiencing your own omnipresence.
Yes, and it's an amazing feeling. Denise says she meditates while she's cleaning. So everybody's got their own way. And I think that's great when you know what takes you there. And the only way you can know is, like Aaron said, trying different things, exploring different modalities, because some people may be able to lotus sit, others can lay there, others, there's so many different ways. But when you find that connecting moment, when oh, aha, this works for me, like, don't let go of that. It's not a fluke. If that's what got you there, then that's what got you there.
Yep. Whatever you have, whatever you can use or utilize and that you have around you, like, I mean, like my best meditations were when I was laying in a hammock, just suspended and then breathing and then really focusing for like 30, 40 minutes. When you get to that point, you're floating. You don't feel any friction from the hammock. You don't feel, I would recommend that everybody does do some type of a deep meditation, like an hour-long meditation. It takes about that much time to get in those deep meditations where your full body just fully into it. And you do kind of feel like you're kind of leaving your body, that's a great way to do it. But meditation, yeah, I think it's very important. I think they need to teach it in school.
I've also found I'm also able to kind of get access that space if I'm outside and the sun is on me. Like if I can feel the breeze, I can hear nature, and I can feel the sun.
Yeah,
It's to me, that's that quick like connection to the.
yeah, that's another great way of doing it. It's just being present. It's just being mindful in the moment.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, I like to go outside barefoot. I hate shoes. So feeling my feet in the grass is a good way to ground too. But just feeling the grass and just enjoying the moment, like you guys have been saying, it's just freaking wonderful. I love it.
Yeah, it's an awesome way to live, and I think more people are learning how to live this way. And really, they're just going, "Wait a minute, why didn't I do this like my whole life?" And all of us do it when we're kids. We all live that way when we're kids. Why can't we live with that same type of like joy and like wonder? That's what I feel like a shaman is just somebody that's always wanting to find more and experience more and just, grateful, but wants to seek out more. I guess I'm kind of nosy that way. I just want to, I want to know things. I don't need to know everything. And I know, the more I'm learning, the more I learn, the old saying, the more I know nothing. So that's what kind of motivates me to keep going and keep diving further, deeper.
Not nosy, Aaron, inquisitive.
There we go. Inquisitive.
Christy said grounding, and I agree. I think that like you said, Aaron, we need to start teaching things, whether it be through school or whatever, PBS,
Yeah.
whatever it is,
Yeah.
to kids at a young age. Because even though they naturally get it, over time that stuff gets like just pushed out as life
Not,
stressors and other things come into play. So I think
yeah.
grounding and meditation would be amazing things to teach children.
You said PBS, and my mind is like, ooh, we need like a Bob Ross of like meditating or something for kids. That'd be freaking fantastic.
Okay. You know what? There is somebody I forgot. Now that I'm saying this, there is a woman from Canada that does like children's yoga, and she sings to them. She plays the
Nice.
guitar for them, but she also shows them yoga poses. What? I can't remember her name.
Is she the YouTube lady
She might be, but she's got long, like kind of brown hair.
with
Sarah,
the
her name
guitar?
was Sarah. Yoga with Sarah.
Okay.
Oh,
I,
okay. I think I
yeah,
know what
yoga
you're
with
talking
Sarah.
about.
Yeah, that's so they are teaching it, but I think it does. Mindfulness and just instead of going in and pledging allegiance to a flag or government, I think we need to start to look at what God truly is. Doesn't need to be anything other than that force that we all live in.
I try to sneak in the breathing because I feel like a lot of meditation, no matter what you're doing, whether it's moving, sitting, lying, cleaning, is a lot of it's breath work, right? Even if we don't
Yeah.
necessarily realize it, it's breath work. And so I try to kind of sneak that into like, I also teach fitness classes, regular fitness classes. And so I'll be like, all right, we're doing our bicep curls. Now take a deep breath in through your nose. Slowly exhale it out. And they're like, what is she doing? And I'm like, you're controlling your breath through stress. That's going to
Yes.
help you later.
Yes. The Hindus call it prana. It's the life force. It's the breath. The breath is the life. So if you're not breathing properly, and like I've talked about this in some of my live streams and podcasts, that if you're not breathing properly, you're stuck. Like something's stuck. It's not. You're rigid. You know what I mean? You're stressed out. But yes, through stress, you can kind of breathe through it. It's just like somebody who like somebody in karate that always they feel that chi. They're feeling that chi at that moment or whatever. There's many ways to do it. I think people need to be more aware, and I think people are becoming more aware that there's so much more that's behind the curtain that we're going to start to see, good and bad, that is going to help us like open up to our abilities, and we will reach this level. I do believe we are going to reach this level of you're going to see people levitating for real, not a magic trick. You're going to see people that are super psychics, that are just, I mean, they have kids in China that they have videos of that are super psychics. That some of them can walk through walls, some of them can levitate. But I think in China they're kind of taught that from a young age. They do teach meditation. They do teach how to be connected to yourself and to the oneness. And I don't know. I think you're going to see a lot more people waking up, and you are going to see a lot more real magic happening, not a trick.
Being as gifted as you were at such a young age and intuitive, did you encounter a lot of paranormal experiences as well? Or
Oh yeah. Yep.
how did you handle that? Because I think for me, I grew up in fear.
When I was really young is when I saw I saw a lot of the apparitions, or when things were really weird. Like my dreams were very vivid. Like I can tell you dreams that I had when I was 4 years old that stuck with me. Like I had there was just little weird things like that I just knew that there was something else, and it didn't really make any sense, and kind of still doesn't. But just these little moments of like epiphany. I've always noticed, signs. I've seen, I saw I think it was the Archangel Gabriel one time, or what I thought it was, that appeared to me in like materialized to me in human, or I could see it with my human eyes. I've seen some like shadow figures, which I know I've come to the, conclusion now after all the work I've done in this area. A lot of those shadow figures aren't evil. You just can't see them. They're hard to see. So they come through as kind of a shadow, but they're not. And like orbs are like a bigger part, like it's a small part of that soul. When you're seeing orbs, you're seeing a small part of them. That's all you can see from this perspective. So I have seen some ghosts. Yes, I've experienced ghosts. We used to live in a house that was like 110 years old, and a lot of people have been through there and turning off lights and turning on lights, and yeah, pretty weird. But yeah, I basically experienced a lot of that stuff and knew that there was more to it than just my imagination.
And how do you reconcile that with, like, in terms of fear? Did you just never have a
Oh,
fear of that, or did
when I was a kid is when, like I said, I had these weird dreams about like the same, like he looked like a Raggedy Andy doll, but he was dressed. It was like a big dude chasing me with knives, and I'd never watched any scary movies at that point. It was like this. I think it was. I mean, I think it was kind of a demon or lower life form that was messing with me. But I was scared. Like it did scare me, but then I just kind of went about my day. That's how I've always done it. I've dealt with some really weird things, like we remote viewed into like reptilians one time and they messed with me. This was just recent. They don't want to be seen. And I don't even know if they're bad guys. I mean, they didn't want to be seen and they kind of shut us off. Like we were remote viewing with a group with my class. We were all doing it and, things like that. I mean, especially with the mind's eye and especially internally, that's where I see a lot of it. But, me and my wife have seen a lot of weird things together. It's never scary to me. It probably should be sometimes, so I don't go check it out. Like, hey, did you hear that noise? I'm gonna go check it out.
fear for
That's the
survival
one
is a
that
big
always dies
thing?
first in the horror movies.
So, could you explain for our listeners that don't know what remote viewing is? Can you explain a little bit more about what that is?
Okay, like, well, we can put it together. We can connect it with meditation. So when we meditate, we talked about how you can go different places and see different things. That omnipresence that we have. It's basically like taking a piece of yourself, sending it somewhere to view. That's how I kind of see it. So you're sending a probe to look at things. But I mean, it's actually you're kind of using your soul to do it. Basically, I don't know how to explain it all, but it's viewing a place from where you're at, focusing. You can close your eyes, or you can just keep them open and just use your mind's eye and just view that place or visit that place. And we do this a lot in the class that I teach. That's probably half of the material that we go through. And yeah, and then you find confirmations after you do it. You view something that you've never viewed before, and then you go study it afterwards, and you find confirmations of things you've seen. So it's some people it's harder, it takes longer, but I would just say if you want to learn how to do it, just practice, pick a target, and then view it with your mind's eye. Then just go to it and see what you can see. Write down what you've seen, what you experience, what you smell, what you hear. Putting yourself in another place whilst staying right where you're at.
Yeah, we briefly touched on the subject of remote viewing way back in season 1 with David Gunn, how we were talking about how they did it in the army or whatever in like the 90s or the 80s. And then they made the movie, The Men Who Stare at Goats, about that.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's just kind of cool to get that throwback from way back then. But, yeah.
Anthony Lewis says, think of it as a window. The best way is to try it in your own home.
Yeah. I just say it's really like, it's just focusing in, using your abilities of sight, actually all of them, just like your regular senses, but you're doing it from the mind. You're focusing in on somewhere else. You're still conscious. Like I can still talk. If somebody talks to me, it might break my concentration a little bit, but I can get right back into it. Some people, it's harder to do that. It takes them time.
So, going from interacting in person or like on the phone with somebody, how does that translate to readings when doing it through like an online platform, whether it be live stream on Facebook, TikTok, any of those things? How do you connect to the person that's trying to get the reading without having to hear them or talk to them?
It's kind of like an energy signature, basically. Like you pick up on their energy signature when I ask for a name. It's just something else that vibrates, and then I can connect. It's just basically asking to connect, and if they're open to be connected to, and then we let spirit just kind of I just channel it as we go. It's not something I really start to think about too much unless it's something I'm trying to explain that I can't quite explain properly. But that's basically how it works. It's really just, you don't need to be in the same room. You don't need to have a phone to talk to someone. You can do a lot of that through just simply sending them a message mentally. And that's kind of how it works. I've just learned how to, or it's became a little easier to me to be able to listen or see things that are coming up with that particular person or energy signature. Once I focus in on somebody, and sometimes that gets hard when I get a lot of people in there on the live readings, I'll pick up on somebody else's energy sometimes because their energy is very strong, and they're pushing in, like, come on, or the spirits or people that are around them, their guides or their higher self is more assertive. So sometimes they'll kind of jump in, but yeah, it's really just kind of having that faith and saying, okay, here we go. Let's focus in on this person, on this name. And it just happens. It's hard to explain.
You're like, wait your turn.
Oh, yeah. I've had to do that before.
Your energy is screaming, wait, just take a moment.
My moderators know what's up. They see it all the time.
Your moderators seem awesome. Like, I know you said a few of the people in our chat right now are moderators, and they've been having conversations and responding, and it's like awesome. They seem like such an awesome group. So
that's good. They're in there supporting you guys. That's awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Gal.
They're great. We've got quite a few people that seem to know each other and you, and I'm like, you're all amazing. You all seem fantastic. So that's really cool. I can feel just a really nice energy from them all. You've created quite a really fantastic group. So when you do a lot of readings, like I'm not able to catch every one of your lives, but when I am in there, you do a lot. So how do you make sure that your energy is protected from all of these different connections after you're done?
Well, I try to do a lot of smudging, like during, but I ask for protection. If I need, my wife produces the live stream, so she's like in the background helping me with my absent-mindedness sometimes because energy is kind of flowing from all different directions. So I'm focused here, then I'm focused there, then I'm focused here, and she kind of brings all my energy, grounds all my energy. So that's really how I get by, how I can do it, how I can keep up with that energy sometimes when you get, 12, 15 readings on a live stream. I mean, that takes a lot of energy.
Yeah, it's I can't even imagine. And the fact that you're feeling the different energies and you've got the different spirit messages trying to come through to all of these individuals. How do you sort through that?
Well, it's almost like in my head, I just go, okay, I got to turn this one off. I got to ignore this one. I got to ignore this one. Where are we focused right now? And it really is kind of a challenge every live stream going, okay, come on, refocus, go back to where you were. But it takes a lot of refocusing. And sometimes I'm not very good at that, but that's that's kind of what it is. Sometimes they're chaotic. Sometimes there's a lot of energy in there, and you just live in it. You just go with the flow.
Anthony says, like sitting in the middle of a flowing river, you're sitting in the middle of.
Yeah, it is a river. That is a stream. That's why they call it a stream. That's a good way to like kind of, how life works. It's kind of like rolling down the river with a bunch of other with the river. It's what it feels more like because you are in that flow, and once you get that vibration high, and everybody else's vibration is high, that's hard energy to hold for too long. So sometimes I'll have to stop and light sage and take a couple of deep breaths. But I don't know. I think playing music and performing in front of people that helped with that.
Oh, that makes sense. Given that you tap into the energies and you're intuitive, I feel like other sensitives probably get that feeling from you and are drawn to you even when they don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Do you find that people approach you to talk about like their problems and a lot?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I do. So that's and I call that on. I ask for that every day. If people need help, if there's somebody I can help out there or people I can help out there, send them to me.
Oh, I like that.
That's kind of the calling I've taken on for right now. So for right now, that's what I'm going to continue to do. I've always been pretty good at directing or teaching, and seeing the talent in others and seeing where they're talented to kind of help bring it out. So this is the way or the modality I'm doing it. It's kind of like taking everything in my life that I'm good at and just utilizing it, like being me.
Isn't that usually when things kind of manifest their best anyways, when you're living your truest forms?
Yes, I think so. My opinion, yeah.
Now, you said you teach, and I know you've referenced some of the classes. So can you tell us more about that? Like, what all do you teach, and where do you teach? How do you teach it?
We do it it's just online. It's like I use StreamYard. So we have a group. It's like a webinar basically once a week. And We learn about all different kinds of things, shamanism, manifestation, scrying, just all the different modalities of how to connect to that greater consciousness that we're all a part of. Whatever, I try to teach from a well-rounded, like everything, that way people can get it, because there's some people that don't get this certain way, but I try to teach it in a way that's everybody understands. So it's open to everybody, and it is like it started out as just like a regular, I'm going to teach. Now I feel like it's become more of like a master class. So we had to we created a free podcast called Breaking the Spell, where we talk a lot. It's kind of a beginner's course, because we've gone so far and evolved that the students that are in the class now have evolved so fast that it has become like beginners shouldn't join this class because there have been people that have came in there and then I felt like kind of gotten freaked out, like, oh, whoa, like this is too deep for me, because we do touch those deep places, and sometimes it's just like group therapy. Sometimes we just have it. We all talk like a family and talk. Pray for each other, and it's I don't know. It's really cool. It's really developed into something I didn't expect it to. I have reached a lot of goals in this class. Like, I'm glad that I'm basically, this is going to phase into like doing retreats in the desert, but this is kind of the phase I'm in right now. The main goal is actually doing physical retreats with people and teaching classes, metaphysical classes on our own land and out in the middle of the desert. So,
John and I will go. We'll go do a retreat with
awesome.
you.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
You like how I just like
Hey,
volunteered
no, I'm
you,
totally
John?
down. Let's go.
Yeah, we just bought 3 acres, a little over 3 acres in Arizona. So, yeah, we'll be doing that here over the next couple of years. We're going to be developing that, and we're going to be homesteaders, and we're going to do all that fun stuff and make a sustainable, spot.
That's so great. And so you said was it you grew up in Utah or your grandma was in Utah?
Yeah, I grew up in Utah. I grew up in Layton, Utah.
Okay. I lived in Utah for about 2 years. And I will say that as much as prior, and John knows this about me, prior to living in Utah, I really was like, I hated my gifts. I didn't want them. I was trying to be as cupped and like down 2D. If I could have been 2D, I would have been 2D as possible. And that how much. And when I moved to Utah, I feel like mama said, no, you're doing this. Like the earth mama or whatever
Nice.
in Utah was like, nope, cup is removed. Here's everything. You better figure it out,
Yeah.
girl. And
That's funny.
I found Utah has a really interesting like space for a metaphysical activity and gifts. And I will say that like anytime I'm feeling like, oh, maybe I'm kind of defaulting back into that like 3D, maybe I just need to go out to Utah and get it going again.
That's funny, Utah. I would know. I'm trying like Mike because I grew up there, so it's kind of it's very religious ran. Like the LDS church runs or has a lot of they have most of the power there, so that's kind of what. But Utah is very spiritual. I agree. Like the land, the actual property is very sacred.
Yeah. And I would say that because I was a transplant, I didn't really have to deal with like the LDS church impacting anything I was involved in. So I was able to kind of run under the radar, if you will, and be really connected into those spaces.
That's how you do it in Utah, right there.
Yeah. So it was like I was okay. And I got to meet some really interesting people that answered my questions about what is this? How is this? What am I experiencing? But someone did ask what is my biggest fear of my gifts? And I think it's a few things. What I'm going to be exposed to by opening those gifts, like the low vibration elementals, because of what I've experienced growing up as a kid. And also, I think just not being able to control the amount because I'm a feeler, as much as I like still sometimes feel kind of like, oh, I can't believe I said that out loud. But I'm a feeler of energies, feelings, emotions, and all sorts of things. And so sometimes I feel like when I'm too open, it's too much. It's overwhelming. And I don't know how to control that. So for me, it's all or nothing, right? I'm either open and it's too much, or like I got to close it all the way down. So at some point I need to figure out how to kind of like let it balance, I guess.
Yeah, and I could say, like, I know what you're talking about, and there's a time when I shut it down, but then I kind of got through those fears. Like, I shut it down for a while, and I just did regular jobs, and I was still playing music, but for a while there I did, and I feel like it's safer to like actually be exposed to more of the low vibrational energy, because the more you're exposed to it, the more you realize, oh, it's not as strong. Like the only way it can actually have any control on me is if it makes or gives me fear, or if I'm afraid of it. And the more you kind of deal with that and those lower vibrational energies, the more you realize they're like spoiled teenagers that really know nothing, like, but they're acting out, or maybe like a 9 or 10 year old, they're just acting out. They're throwing tantrums. They're trying to scare you. That's how I see them. Like they're trying to scare you because they want your attention. And a lot of them aren't evil. They're just, basically a demon just means a lower spirit. So it just means somebody or an entity that's probably, in most cases, now I'm not going to say there's an old evil, because there is, but in most cases, they're just naive spirits, naive souls that haven't evolved yet.
I think that's gonna help me. I would
Good.
utilize that now. If I start
Good.
to feel any of those energies or anything, I'm gonna be like, "You're just a scared little teenager." You're just.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm gonna start picturing like what was it? What were they called? The Breakfast Club. Like I'm gonna start picturing the '80s teens just there with attitude. Like, no, you take your attitude
Right.
somewhere else.
That's basically how you
Yeah.
have to deal with them. And most of the time they go away.
Christy said, I believe she's referencing Utah has one of the biggest energy points on the planet. There are 134 across the world. One of them is here. Are we talking about ley line
I've had that.
intersections?
Yeah, I think she's talking about like the points of light around
Ah,
the earth and
okay.
ley lines. I've always had that feeling in being in Utah. Like, why was I born here? Because I was born in this place where I'm totally like a fish out of water. Like, I totally rejected religion from day one. I had it coming from like the Mormon side and the Catholic side. The Mormon side wasn't as much my family. It was more like you just live in Utah, so there's always missionaries there. There's tons of Mormon churches there. You can't go 2 blocks without running into a couple of them, and so it was like heavily like indoctrinated LDS, and I just rejected it my whole life. I always thought it was off. I always thought, I'm like, why has everybody got this like Stepford Wives smile on their face? It just didn't make sense to me. Like, why are you guys all following this one organization? It seems really weird, like you're a bunch of ants. But I always thought that. I always thought that Utah has some spiritual significance or energetic significance to where I was born. Not making me any more special than anybody else, but I just feel like that's what I needed for myself to learn, to experience, to be able to stand up, being one of the only ones standing up, on their own while everybody else was over in the other group. And that's helped me in life, especially in the last few years.
There is something about Utah, church aside, all of that aside, there is something, like you said, about the land. Because when I moved there, I started having nonstop dreams about tunnels underground and that I needed to go into the tunnels because there was
Oh,
something
there are
there
tunnels
that,
underground too. You're
and
right.
I didn't know that when I first moved there, but I'm like, I'm dreaming about these tunnels and I'm going to go have like a battle underground with something living in the tunnels. And I'm like, I probably shouldn't go
Oh wow.
underground, but it was the same dream. Like I was obsessed with, I need to go into the tunnels because there's something underground and for me, I just remembered it. I didn't remember this last time I was talking about it, but to me, whatever was living in the tunnels, that negative vibration was actually impacting above ground.
Yeah.
So that was causing a lot of the toxicity and
Yeah.
negative. But I did find also that there was a lot in Utah of just vibrations in general. Like you
Yep.
go somewhere, you throw a stone, and someone has built a hidden altar. Like there was a lot of energetic vibration going on there, and I feel a lot of people felt it, whether they admitted it or not. They
Yeah,
felt it.
there's a lot of pagan energy there. Like from like the city I lived right next to, which was Kaysville. There used to be a cross down in this ravine, and it was old. Or like a very old, like the Celtic looking crosses, or not Celtic, but Gothic looking crosses.
Hmm.
It was probably about 12 foot tall. And we go down there when we were kids. It's like you have to go through a couple of houses. You have to like cut through a couple of houses, walk down a field. It takes like 15 minutes to walk to, but it's just down in this ravine. Somebody blew it up when I was a teenager, but so it's not there anymore. But yeah, I have always felt that like Kaysville's like very, very Wiccan, or that there was a lot of like Wiccan type of energy there. And then I've been other places where I feel like other like ancient type of I feel ancients, basically. I feel the ancients there. Like everywhere in Utah, southern Utah is a great example. Like you feel a lot of like Native American ancient type of energy there.
Yeah, 9 Mile Canyon. That's from
Oh
what
yeah, 9 Mile
between
Canyon. Yeah.
Wellington and Price all the way up and out.
Yeah. I didn't even know you knew what Wellington and Price were. I actually lived part of my childhood there in Wellington and Price.
So I actually used to drive because I was in Colorado. I used to drive from
Yeah.
Colorado to Utah, and I would take the southern route because I didn't want to hit the storms in Wyoming. And
Yeah.
every time I would drive up that southern route between Price and Wellington, which I didn't know, I started dropping a pin on my phone because it would happen, and it was so dark. I'm a night driver
Yeah.
person. I didn't know where I was, and I started figuring out it was the same place every time. I would feel like there was something trying to pull me off the road, like this big energetic draw just to pull me. And I'm like, what the heck is this? What is going on? I just felt like I need to like just go off with like something is pulling me hard. And I mean, I didn't, but I met someone from Price like a year later. And she told me that there were a lot of car accidents in that area. And people would say they didn't know why. They just went off the road. And I'm like, what is
Yeah, it's a
that?
strange place. I lived in Price and Wellington, and they're both very strange places. Like, I think about my childhood there. I mean, I spent about, I don't know, it was 5, 6, 7 years. But we just go pick like dinosaur and like fossils. Like they're everywhere out there. Like you just go into like a pile of, they call it shell rock, that shell rock. And you just look around, you'll find fossils that are ancient. I mean, millions of years old. So that's the kind of energy you really feel there. But it's also it can be like hills have eyes too in that area.
Well, yeah, and between Price and Wellington, there's actually one of the entrances to 9 Mile Canyon, and it goes all the
Yeah.
way up and past
Yep.
Skinwalker Ranch. Like that's how long it is.
Yeah, we used to camp there when I was a kid. We used to camp 9 Mile Canyon.
And they have like all the petroglyphs and like I want to go there. I feel like there's a lot of energy, and that's been on my list. Like I'm drawn to going into 9 Mile Canyon at some point. I just need a group
I'm
to go.
totally down.
Because I'm not brave enough to go alone.
You know me, I'll go with you. Not a question.
You have been such an amazing presence on TikTok. And for those who don't know how TikTok works, like you literally can click on live and see who's streaming. His happened to pop up in my For Your profile recommendations. And I was just like, oh, what's going on here? And then once you hit follow, it tells you when they're popping up on live. So
Yeah.
So of course I hit follow. And so are there any other things that you want to share, Aaron, about your gifts? Anything you feel compelled to talk about?
No, I feel like like I said, this is my purpose. This is what I want to do, and I want to really open people's eyes or enlighten them to their own magnificence in a way. And that's really the job that I've been trying to do or been doing for the last 20 something years. So you'll see me on a lot, and there's many others out there. And don't just put it off if you see a tarot reader or you see a card reader or a psychic. They're not crazy, and some of them pretend to be other people. Those are the fakes when they pretend. And I got a lot of those, unfortunately, for fake accounts pretending to be me. Anyway,
Usually, because
yeah,
like all of them say on TikTok, like I will not message you for a reading. So if you
Right.
get followed by someone and it's like, oh my gosh, Aaron followed me. That's so great.
Russell Brand was saying that's how bad it is on the internet right now. Russell Brand was like, I will not send you any messages or emails saying that, you've got something, or here, just send me this. Yeah, those are the scammers. So watch out for those guys. But no, really take a listen. If you're not, somebody that's been into that, or, you may be interested in it, take a little deeper dive. Don't be afraid to learn more. Don't be afraid of demons. Don't be afraid of any of the monsters that we've been taught to be afraid of. Just be open to it. And the more open to it and the more you learn about it and understand it, the more you want to understand. But you also come to an understanding that it's not those things that we see when we're in the ether, when we're astral traveling or remote viewing. They're not going to hurt us for the most part. They'll be irritating sometimes. But for the most part, it's your own mind that's hurting you. And it's that, visual you see and you're like, oh my God, what are they going to do to me? They're not going to do anything to you other than try to scare you. Don't be afraid of it. It's not. I know, some people think that it's the devil's work. Really, just give it. Be open-minded. If you're more open-minded and open-hearted, you're going to see a lot more of what's been suppressed from you your whole life. There is an active force that is trying to suppress it in all of us and keep it hidden, keep it dormant. And it's important to be a lot more alert and awake and aware right now, especially right now in these days. It's gonna help you. Ignorance is not bliss; it is pain eventually. So try to learn as much as possible.
Well, and I understand there are a lot of people out there where, like Aaron was saying, you're battling that part of you that's saying, this is not for you, this is bad, this is whatever.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us did grow up with a specific type of religious indoctrination that says this kind of stuff is bad. But I would say you are curious for a reason. And there's nothing wrong with going onto a podcast or listening to a YouTube video or listening to like someone like Aaron on a live just talk to people, because you'll know. My biggest thing for people is listen to yourself, and you're going to know. You're going to be able to wade through, this person is not genuine, or what, something they're saying really resonates with me. That doesn't make you wrong. If something they resonated with you is making sense, pay attention to that. Let that just absorb that. You might find 3 days later it clicks for you and you're like, oh, that's what they meant. Or, oh yeah, that makes more sense to me. Your body, your mind, your subconscious, your soul, all these things are going to do the rest for you. You were put in that moment for a reason, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing bad about that. So that's what I tend to try to tell people when they're like, no, that's against this religion or that, and it's like you said, the devil, and it's like,
yeah,
maybe, but probably not. It is hard when we're trained a certain way to believe certain things, and the hardest thing we'll do is undo that training. But you can do it, and just take it a step at a time if that's where you're meant to be.
There's much more out there, further than the religions you've learned. Go further than that. There's more to it. There's a lot more to it. We live in a very big universe. It's once you kind of break yourself free from like the norms and the way that, we've all been kind of taught to follow, you're more prone to be open to real inspiration, to what is real, because there is a lot of fake out there. When you start to really find your true connection to yourself and reclaim that power, sky's the limit.
Where can people find more about you, Aaron? Like your classes and your readings?
Yeah, my classes, go to www.psychicshaman333.com. And my classes are on there. Just look for the Metaphysical Mystics page on my website. On TikTok, my handle is Psych, so PSYCH Shaman 333. And you can find me there, and I'm live there a couple times a week. And I put out some goofy videos and some spiritual videos, some here and there. And cards of the day, message of the day. But yeah, that's where you can finally basically Google me, Google Aaron Fowler Psychic Shaman. I'll pop up everywhere.
Yes. And we will put out the links for Aaron on all of our social media sites as well. Guys, thank you so much for listening to Aaron and us have a conversation. Aaron, you've been amazing. I really appreciate you carving out time to be here today.
Thank you. And it's been a pleasure. Go check out it's called Break the Spell podcast. Check us out on Facebook. We're doing it on Facebook and YouTube. On my page, though, you can see it from my page.
So we'll share that as well.
Have a great night.
Thanks, you too. All right, John Thomas, you want to bring us home?
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching this episode of 3Haunted Podcast with your host. I'm John Thomas.
I am Ashley Lunar Goddess.
And if you have any questions, comments, or episode suggestions, please feel free to email us at 3hauntedpodcast@gmail.com. And if you haven't done so already, which I know a lot of you probably have already, in the chat, like, follow, subscribe to all of our social media. You don't want to miss one amazing moment.
Until next time. Are you looking for more awesome podcasts? Head on over to withoutyourhead.com for access to the Without Your Head podcast network, where you'll find a variety of podcasts sure to keep you entertained and coming back for more.